Hello, this is Simon Sheridan. I'm Mary Millington's biographer, and today we're going to be looking at the Mary Millington Movie Collection Blu-ray box set. We're going to be unwrapping this in a bit. But before we do this, I thought it might be fun to look at some of the previous formats which Mary Millington's films were available on. I thought we'd start with this. This is Mary's first film, Miss Borlock, the notorious film she made in 1970, hardcore film. Quite rude on the back. I can't show too much of that. This is an 8mm film. This sold over 300,000 copies in Europe during the early 70s. It's probably the best-selling European hardcore porn film of all time. So this is Mary's first ever appearance on a home movie format. Then by the late 1970s, her more mainstream films like this, Come Play With Me, were being released on Super 8. This was released by Fletcher's Films and was heavily advertised in the back of David Sullivan's magazines. This is Come Play With Me. And we also have the Playbirds, Super 8 colour sound here. And these sold incredibly well, but they weren't on the market for very long because eventually Mary started transferring on to VHS. So this is the first VHS release of Come Play With Me from 1979. And this retailed in 1979 for about £99, unbelievably. Here's the original cassette, the Come Play With Me written on. This was released on the Hokushin label and sold, hundreds of thousands of copies of this were sold. Hokushin also released Mary's films on Betamax, these rather cute little boxes. Betamax, of course, never really caught on in the UK. It was far more popular in other countries, particularly America. Here's the Playbirds release on Betamax. Quite a cute little cassette, that, isn't it? With the Playbirds written on the side. So that was the late 70s. Then we move on to the 80s. And Come Play With Me and Mary's other films like the Playbirds here were reissued in these big chunky boxes, which are quite fun. And these sold a lot as well. And there was even a catalogue which came out here with the M symbol here. Of course, Mary did wear a necklace with a double M on. We've just got a single M here. And this is actually the brochure for those releases. Now, these films, back in about 1985, these retailed for $15.95 each, or you could buy the full set of 5 for just under £70. This is incredibly rare, this brochure, the Mary Millington collection. So it wasn't really until the late 90s when the films started coming out again once more on VHS. These came out on the Medusa label in 1997. I never really liked these releases, even though I did work on these. I never particularly liked them because they didn't use the original artwork. I don't know who this woman is on the front, but that's certainly not Mary Millington. Certainly isn't there on True Blue Confessions. So these came out in 97. But it wasn't until 2010 that Mary's films finally started coming out on DVD. So this is the screen-bound release of Come Play With Me from 2010, which I worked on, and we did booklets for all of these films. And this was very exciting for me to work on these because they hadn't actually been remastered until this point. There's Come Play With Me, we've got the Playbirds, and we've got the Day the Galaxy Affair. So these 3 were restored and put on DVD, and had quite a few nice little extras on that as well. But ever since these came out, I've been saying to Screenbound, the distributors, can we please have Mary on Blu-ray? And finally this year, it has happened. And this is the result. This is the Mary Millington Movie Collection Blu-ray box set with 5 discs and a book. So this is what we're going to be opening today. So let me just peel off this cellophane on the side, if I can do this. Here we go. And this is the box set. So I've been working very closely on this. I've curated the whole box set for Screenbound. And it's in a beautiful, big, chunky cardboard box, nice and hard here, with the spine, credits on the back telling you what's inside. The artwork here I commissioned from a friend of mine who's an artist called Sam Besant. The brief I had for him really was to try and create something a little bit like Charlie's Angels from the 1970s. So he came up with this, which we're really pleased with, and it's reproduced all the way around the box. The rest of the box set was designed by Abby Parsons, who's at Screenbound, who's an excellent designer as well. So you can see this is a nice chunky box with a certificate at the bottom. This box set is an 18 certificate, of course, because these films were originally X-rated, and that rating hasn't changed really to this day. So here we have the 5 discs. These are the 5 discs which are housed in the box, and each one of them has different Mary films on. So I thought we'd look at each one in turn. This is, of course, Come Play With Me. Here's a picture of Mary Millington on the set of Come Play With Me in October 1976 when she was filming it in Oxford. Inside we have the disc and the original Come Play With Me poster, which was painted by Tom Chantrell. I can show you this. So we've had that reproduced, which is really nice. On the back here we have a list of all the special features. So aside from the film, which is the original theatrical version, but incidentally it's not the hardcore porn version. It is the original 94-minute theatrical version from 1977. What special features have we got here? Well, we've got an audio commentary with me and Sue Longhurst. So Sue is one of the stars of Come Play With Me. Though, funnily enough, when we did the audio commentary, we realised she's not in it for the first 30 minutes. We had quite a laugh about that. But she is in the film for the rest of the movie. So Sue and I had a long chat about the film, had quite a laugh. I've known Sue, for about 20 odd years. So we talk about how she made the movie. We also have the Come Play With Me original 1977 trailer on here. Now, David Sullivan, when he gave us all the original versions of the film, he didn't actually have the original trailer in his archive. So that trailer was bought by me from a dealer some years ago. So this is the only place you can actually find the trailer. But it's quite good fun. So I've made quite a lot of documentaries which appear as special features on these discs, and we have a couple here. In Bed with Josie Harrison Marks. Now this is I think it's about a 22-minute documentary interview with Josie Harrison Marks, who is the daughter of George Harrison Marks, who directed Come Play With Me. She's also actually in the film as a brownie, as a girl guide. So she can talk about what it was like on set, and she knows what it was like, working with her dad, and also what her father was like to live with. And she has some great stories. So we filmed her at her house down in Kent, and we also filmed at the hotel, the Western Manor Hotel in Oxfordshire as well for that. We had some fun filming that. What else have we got on here? We got Sex Is My Business, which is an 8mm film directed by George Harrison Marks, which stars Mary Millington, which was filmed in a sex shop just off Piccadilly Circus. And then also we have a featurette called 8 Millington, 8mm Millington, perhaps we should call it, which is a compilation of 5 of Mary's hardcore movies, including Miss Borlock, which we talked about earlier, Oral Connection, Betrayed, Special Assignment, and Oh Nurse. All of these films were originally directed by John Lindsay, and they have been remastered, and they're on here. Now, of course, they are not the hardcore versions, because we wanted an 18 certificate for this box set. We didn't want an R18. If we'd had an R18, we could have got away with the hardcore footage, but that's not what we wanted. So the hardcore footage has been taken out of these films, so it's just the softcore material. Now, before you say, well, what's left? This is still half an hour long, even with 5 films on it. So there's actually quite a lot of Mary for your money, even though it's not the hardcore footage. You see absolutely everything else. So that's the Come Play With Me disc. Then we go on to the Playbirds. Here is Mary dressed as WPC Lucy Sheridan in the film, released in the summer of 1978. Once again, remastered. All of these films have been remastered to HD and look absolutely fantastic. Inside here, we have the disc, of course, and the Playbirds poster. I'll just pop the disc back in. And we've got some great special features on here. Oh yeah, we've got an audio commentary between myself and Willie Rove, who was the director and producer of this film. And Willie hasn't really talked much about these films in the past. He's always a little bit reticent, but we did manage to record him in a studio in central London, talking about making all of these films, but particularly the Playbirds. Playbirds is actually my favourite of all Mary's films. So there's an audio commentary, me and Willie. We've got a short documentary called 10 Million Dirty Words. Now this is quite interesting. This is a documentary about Harry Knights, who was Mary Millington's ghostwriter. He wrote all the dirty stories which appeared in the Mary Millington magazines. And weirdly, he died just a few weeks after Mary died in 1979. He lived in Nottingham, and we went up to Nottingham and we interviewed his widow, Maureen, and his youngest son, Christopher, about Harry's life. Probably Britain's most prolific writer, certainly Britain's most prolific pornographic writer. He easily wrote 10 million pornographic words in the space of perhaps 7 or 8 years. So that's quite a nice little documentary that we've made. Also on here, we've got another 8mm film called Response, which was directed by Russell Gay in the mid-70s. It's a lesbian fantasy film, softcore. And the last documentary on here is George Richardson, Confessions of a Photographer. This is another short film that I made. It's an interview with George Richardson, who was one of Britain's most famous glamour photographers in the 1970s. He photographed Mary on numerous occasions, and he was on the set of Come Play With Me. So he took all the stills, those famous stills of Mary posing topless with Irene Handel beaming, not being in the slightest bit embarrassed. He took those photographs. But he's probably most famous for taking the photograph of Mary Millington topless outside 10 Downing Street. So he tells the incredible story about how that was shot, how he got arrested, how him and Mary Millington ended up in court. So that's on the Playbirds disc. Then we come on to Confessions from the David Galaxy Affair, which was Mary's third film, which she made with producer David Sullivan. This was released in the summer of 1979. The restoration on this film is absolutely superb. You've never seen this film look so good. Opening it up, here's the disc again, and the cinema poster in the middle. Confessions from the David Galaxy Affair gets a bit of a mixed press. It's not Mary's greatest film because she's not in it a lot, but you will never have seen it look as good as is here. Here on the front is actually a photograph of Mary from the film when she's dining with actor Alan Lake. So this is a beautiful looking film. What have we got on here? There's no audio commentary on this one, incidentally. There is on all the other films. We've got a documentary I shot about Sally Faulkner, the actress, who plays David Galaxy's rather antagonistic girlfriend in Confessions from the David Galaxy Affair. We filmed this down in London at her house. She's very, very funny. She's a superb actress, Sally Faulkner, but she did make a few X-rated exploitation films, which I'm not sure she's terribly proud of now, but she can have a laugh at them. But at the time, I don't think they were her happiest experiences. But she talks about making I'm Not Feeling Myself Tonight, Confessions of a Driving Instructor. She did have a good time doing that one, actually, because she loved Robin Asquith, and also appearing alongside Alan Lake in this film. So we had some fun with her. She's a scream. What else have we got on here? Arabian Nights. This is an 8mm hardcore film, which we only use the softcore elements of, which co-stars Rosemary England. Rosemary England is in Confessions from the David Galaxy Affair. It was her only hardcore film that we're aware of, and we put that on there. We also have Wild Lovers and Party Pieces, which are two 8mm films made by Aubrey Ross and Peter Burt in the mid-70s, originally released on the Impact Double X label. And they're on here. Party Pieces, incidentally, is the colour version. The colour version has not been seen for about 45 years, but I managed to get my hands on it, and we put the colour version on here. But the thing I'm most proud of on this disc is a documentary that we made called Mary Millington on Location. So this is probably the short documentary I've always wanted to make, where we look at all the places in London and the South East which relate to Mary's career and her life. So we look at her family home in Lechmere Road in London, when she moved to Mid Holmwood in Surrey, her life in Dorking, even the church where she got married. We filmed in those places so we can show you exactly what it was like back in the 1970s and what it looks like now. We've also filmed at the sites of her old sex shops, and some of the film locations as well, like the Western Manor Hotel in Oxford, where Come Play With Me was shot, Soho, around Soho, where the Playbirds was filmed, near Tower Bridge from Confessions from the David Galaxy Affair, the old Burlesque Club, which features in Queen of the Blues, also her houses that she lived at in Putney and in Walton on the Hill. So this is a really lovely documentary. It's about half an hour long. I really, really enjoyed making this. It was very, very interesting to go back in time and see the places that Mary knew in her lifetime. And we're very lucky that the narrator of this documentary is the actress Judy Matheson. Now, Judy appeared in a lot of cult films in the 1970s, including Lust for a Vampire and Twins of Evil for Hammer Horror Studios. She's also appeared in The Flesh and Blood Show for Pete Walker and Confessions of a Window Cleaner with Robin Asquith in 1974. She was also a continuity announcer in the 80s and 90s, so she has a beautiful voice. So she is the narrator of Mary Millington on Location, and she does a super job. Very, very fond of Judy. She's great. Right, so now we go on to the fourth disc that comes in this box. Now this actually has 3 films on it. This has 1979's Queen of the Blues. Here's the poster for Queen of the Blues, which was released as a double bill with Massage Girls of Bangkok. Mary was not in that film, incidentally. But this disc has 3 films: Queen of the Blues, Mary Millington's True Blue Confessions, which was the pseudo tribute film from 1980, and Mary Millington's World Striptease Extravaganza from 1981. So you get 3 films on this. I mean, these films are shorter. Queen of the Blues is 90 minutes. True Blue Confessions is about 35 minutes, as is World Striptease. Queen of the Blues has been remastered and looks absolutely stunning. So has True Blue Confessions. World Striptease has not been restored because we didn't have the original film elements for that film. And it's one of the reasons why it's not listed on the front of the box either. So it's basically a special feature. But we put them in chronological order because this is how they were released. True Blue Confessions is a very curious film. It's one of my favourite Mary films, even though it was made after her death. But I talk about the making of that film on an audio commentary with producer David Sullivan. David has never done an audio commentary before, and I didn't have to persuade him too hard because he loves the film. But he talks very freely about why he made it and why he thinks it's a worthy tribute, and we talk about whether it's exploitative or not, and get some good information about the film from him. Queen of the Blues is also an audio commentary with Alan Warren, who was Mary's co-star. He's a very, very funny man, and we recorded him in Hammersmith in London talking about making the movie, which he made just after the Porridge movie with Ronnie Barker. What else have we got on here? We have the 1981 Emmanuel in Soho prologue. So Mary was going to appear in another film. She was going to appear in Funeral in Soho, which was due to be shot in 1979 or 1980 because Mary died. So it became Emmanuel in Soho and was remade in 1981. And we've got some footage that was used in Emmanuel in Soho in the American version, which is actually from True Blue Confessions. So we thought it was a nice idea to put that extended sequence on this disc. We've also got the 1981 VHS introduction to True Blue Confessions on this as well, because it was renamed The Naked Truth. And probably the nicest thing on this particular disc is a short film called Oral Sex, spelt A-U-R-A-L, oral as in listening, which talks about Mary making audio recordings, pornographic audio recordings with a guy called Nigel Verbeek. So we actually play one of these audio recordings and illustrate it, beautifully shot with a record player. And we talk about why she made these audio recordings. And it's narrated by Clyda Rosen. Now, Clyda Rosen was, like Mary, a hardcore 8mm actress in the early 70s. But she retired from the porn business about 30 years ago and hasn't really been heard of since. But I did meet her a few years ago at the premiere of my film, Respectable, and she agreed to narrate the feature on here, the little documentary. So you'll hear her voice on that as well, which will be a surprise to a few people who have only ever seen what she looks like in the 1970s. So that's disc number 4. Then we go on to the last disc. Now this is my film. So in 2015, I released a film called Respectable, the Mary Millington story, which is a feature-length documentary about Mary's life. So this came out on DVD in 2016, but it's making its debut here on Blu-ray, as are all of these films. None of these films have been released anywhere in the world on high-definition Blu-ray before. So this is my film. A little bit of the cinema poster here on the inside of the box. Respectable, the Mary Millington story. And on this disc, we have an audio commentary that I did with Sam Dunn from the BFI. One of the first audio commentaries I think I ever did. We're talking about how I made the film. There's a trailer for Respectable on here as well. And then lastly, there's a documentary about me on here, which was shot by my very good friend, Christopher Stratton. He directed it and produced it. In fact, Christopher has worked on all of the special features on this box set and is a really wonderful cameraman. And in fact, he is filming this very now. Say hello, Christopher.
Yo.
That's him in the background. So he has directed this little documentary about me. We filmed it in Gloucester, where I'm from, talking about how I made Respectable, the Mary Millington story, and how I got involved with Mary's family, and how I was introduced to various people in her life. So that's the 5th disc. So those are all the discs that go into the box. But the other really good thing about this box set is we have a book that comes with it. This is the Mary Millington Movie Collection book written by myself. Once again, we use the same artwork as we do on the front of the box set. On the back, we've got a list of thank yous. So many people worked on this project with me. I thank everyone for being a part of it, because this has really been a dream project for me. So this is a nice chunky 80-page book which I wrote all about Mary and her films. What's interesting about this is there is an introduction here written by David Sullivan. David's never written anything about Mary before, but I persuaded him to put some words together. So he talks a little bit about his life with Mary and the movies. So that's his introduction at the beginning. Then we look at each film in turn. Come play with me here. I write about how it was made, got some interviews with some of the people. I think Susie Mandel gave us some quotes for here. She was in the film, so did Sue Longhurst. And there were some photographs here which have never been published before. I mean, this is This is one of the call sheets for Come Play With Me from 1976. These are some photographs of Mary at the Moulin Cinema when the film was released in April 1977, the longest running British film of all time. So you've got some nice pictures in here, lots of words, of course, and some colour, plenty of colour too. We wanted it to really stand out. So that's Come Play With Me. Then we look at Playbirds. We talk about how that was made. Some on-set photographs. I've got a photograph here of the cameraman actually in the swimming pool as they're filming Mary and Alan Lake. Some other pictures of Mary on magazine covers. This is Confessions from the David Galaxy Affair, with some nice quotes from Willie Rowe, who produced and directed the film. And then Queen of the Blues, which was the last film Mary made before she died, and was a huge hit at the cinema. Here she is with John East, her voice coach, her vocal coach, and we reproduced the cinema posters here as well. True Blue Confessions from 1980, with some information about how that was made. A rather controversial film in hindsight. And then we got Mary Millington's World Striptease Extravaganza here. A nice picture here of Bernie Winters with one of the girls from the film. I'm not sure that's ever been published before. And then we finish up with looking at Respectable, the Mary Millington story, which is my documentary. And there's some bits and pieces in there about how I put that together. Then towards the end of the book, we've got some more nice photographs of Mary. Some of these have come out of her magazines from my archive, which have been given to me by David Sullivan. Some adverts, advertising bits and pieces that Mary did, including her sex shops and one of her audio cassettes, where she spoke rather saucily about bits and pieces. And then towards the back, I thought it was important that we actually document all the different special features for the box set. So I look at each one of the special features, not just the old ones, the old 8mm films, but also the ones that I've made as well, just giving you a little bit of biographical information about how they were made and who made them apart from myself. And the very last thing after these rather naughty photographs at the back is I've written a short essay about Mary's life called "The Queen is Dead, Long Live the Queen." Just putting Mary into a proper sort of cultural significance, why she's important today in part of British history. And then we just finish up. I thought it was nice to have a photograph of Mary with her puppies, with her dogs. I mean, Mary was a big animal lover. I just thought that was a nice picture to end with. We've got all the 5 discs and they all slot back into the chunky box here. So this is the Mary Millington Movie Collection Blu-ray box set. It's available now. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you buy it and remember Mary's story. And thank you very much for watching this short video as well.